Well, welcome back viewers, this is Brian the 3 Topics Gamer, here to bring you my second Mass Effect vs. Series matchup. This time I'll be pitting Garrus from the classic Mass Effect Trilogy series against Vetra from the Mass Effect Andromeda game to see which Turian would walk away the winner. Now before I begin, I would just like to state right now that I'll be using Garrus as he was during the events of Mass Effect 3 only, and I'll be taking Vetra as she was during the events of Mass Effect Andromeda only. For my research sources, I'll be taking Garrus' appearances from the primary trilogy of Mass Effect games, as well as his appearance in the Mass Effect Homeworlds No. 3 comic book series. And for Vetra, I'll be pulling from her appearances in Mass Effect Andromeda game only. So, with that out of the way, let's get started. Starting off with Garrus. What we do know about his early years is that he began his military training at the age of 15, and like his father, he would eventually join the Citadel Security Services, where he would find himself investigating the rogue Spectre Saren. It was during his investigation that he would first meet Commander Shepard and agree to join their crew in an attempt to defeat both Saren and the Geth. Commander Shepard would succeed in fighting off the Geth and defeating Saren, only to discover that the Reapers were in fact returning and all of the galaxy would need to be prepared for them when they arrived. After completing their mission, Garrus would thank Shepard for allowing him to join his crew, and he would leave the Normandy in order to reapply for the Spectre candidacy. After the defeat of Saren, Garrus would continue to improve his skills as a marksman and would eventually find himself traveling to Omega, and after agreeing to work alongside another fellow Turian named Sidonius, the two would form a squad to combat Omega's criminals, with Garrus taking the name Archangel. Over a period of time, Garrus' squad of fighters were so successful in taking down many members of multiple gangs that the surviving members of each rival gang agreed to band together to take them down, but even so, they were unsuccessful. However, eventually Sidonius was captured by the mercenary group called Blue Sun, and he was used to trap Garrus in their hideout. Garrus, now fighting alone, held off multiple waves of attacks for a period of time, but he recognized that it would only be a matter of time before he would be killed. However, while targeting his attackers, he happened to notice a familiar emblem and realized that it was Commander Shepard, who had come to recruit him for a new mission. After escaping off of Omega with Shepard, Garrus was more than happy to fight alongside Shepard in his fight against the Collectors, and even took part in the supposed suicide mission through the Omega Fort relay. It was during this mission that Shepard would discover that the Collectors were constructing a new human Reaper made from the genetic material of abducted colonists. After destroying the Collector's base and surviving the trip through the Omega 4 relay, most of the crew of the Normandy still acknowledged that the threat of the Reapers had not been stopped. Needing to warn his fellow Turians about the impending threat of the Reapers, Garrus would leave Shepard once again and make his way to Palvian's moon just as the Reapers were attacking. Garrus was given his own task force and was viewed as a military consultant given his experience against the Reaper forces, and managed to help hold the Reaper forces at bay for a time in order to give Palvians time to prepare. During the attack, Shepard would arrive on the moon and with Garrus' help managed to locate and recover the Turian's Primarch, General Adrian Victus, who was needed to convince the Turian forces in order to join Shepard's collective multiple species to fight against the Reapers. Garrus rejoined Shepard during the final battle against the Reapers, and though as far as we know there is no official canon ending to the Mass Effect 3 storyline, in my personal playthrough, Shepard was successful in destroying the Reapers, with Garrus and the rest of the crew believing that Shepard had died. When it comes to his armament, he carries both an assault rifle for medium range, along with his preferred weapon, a sniper rifle for long range. His assault rifle was more than likely the MA Avenger, which was equipped with multiple damage multipliers in order for it to work better against armor, barriers, and shields. It uses an ammo clip of 40 rounds. And when it comes to Garrus' sniper rifle, it is a bit hard to determine because there are several official sources that show him using multiple different rifles, but for this matchup I'll be giving him access to the Black Widow, which was an improvement over the Asari's M98 Widow in terms of fire rate and penetration, with an even faster reload speed. Garrus also wears a visor over his left eye that multiplies his distance of vision, which he uses alongside his rifles, granting Garrus an even closer sight when looking through his scope. He also wears Turian armor, which when applied alongside his barriers provides him with excellent protection. As a combatant, Garrus is classified as a Turian rebel and brings a number of special attributes and skills when fighting. Garrus can fire a concussive shot that can knock down just about any opponent, and with his heightened accuracy, he can use this both with his assault rifle and sniper rifle at just about any range. He also has access to armor-piercing rounds, which, as the name states, is effective against armored opponents, and can even use this to shoot through light cover areas to hit enemies. Garrus also has the use of proximity mines that will explode when an enemy gets within range of them, and his final ability at its disposal is the technique called Overload, which is capable of firing a powerful surge of energy that stuns his enemies and is effective against shields, barriers, and synthetics. Going into Vetra, though she was born on the Turian home planet of Palaven, she and her younger sister would be orphaned at a young age, forcing Vetra to have to take herself and her sister Sid off-world, spending the majority of her early years outside of Council space, constantly moving from one planet to another. Vetra would eventually find herself joining up with a band of mercenaries, and after working a series of odd jobs over the course of years, Vetra and her sister would be enlisted into the Andromeda Initiative after one of her former bosses referred her. Vetra and her sister would travel to Nexus, and Vetra would eventually find herself joining the crew of the Andromeda Initiative survey ship called the Tempest, under the command of the recently made human Pathfinder Ryder. Though we don't know the extent of officially Vetra's part in the game, Vetra would do her part in aiding Ryder in the fight against the Cath. When it comes to her armament, Vetra carries a modified Cyclone assault rifle. It uses a magazine size of 50 rounds, and thanks to Vetra's personal modifications, it more than likely helped increase the weapon's accuracy, due to the fact that the classic models had mediocre accuracy at a medium range, with the inventor stating that with a weapon that can fire so many rounds, you're bound to hit something, but Vetra certainly wanted to make sure that she made every round count. It also may be possible that Vetra equipped her Cyclone with a beam emitter augmentation, which allowed the weapon to be highly effective at penetrating armor. Vetra also wears a visor over her eyes, and though there is absolutely no source that states exactly what this does, it is my belief that it provides an enhanced vision which grants her real-time scans of the immediate area that she's in. When it comes to her set of skills, Vetra will be bringing up to 5 at her disposal in this matchup. Since Vetra is classified as a Turian smuggler, she is granted capabilities such as higher efficiency, she has access to disruptor ammo, and the ability known as focus fire, which allows Vetra to temporarily enhance the amount of damage that her assault rifle can dish out. Her skill set as a defensive expert also grants her better adaptive shielding, a heightened sense of understanding better defensive positioning, and a greater regeneration should her shields be penetrated. She also wears a set of power armor that hardens when activated, reinforcing her shields, granting her unrivaled protection. On the offensive side of her skills, she has access to concussive shot, and her turbocharge ability allows Vetra to temporarily vent a weapon's heat via armor to improve the thermal clip efficiency and boost the weapon's firing rate. In my personal viewpoint, Vetra is the equivalent of a modern battle tank with the fire rate of an assault rifle. Now, before I give my conclusion, I would just like to make an important statement about this particular matchup. From the outside going in, it's easy to see that Garrus should have an easy time taking Vetra out, and that was certainly my mentality going into this matchup, even me being a bit biased towards Garrus since he is without question not only my favorite teammate, he is my favorite Mass Effect character of all time. I would even go so far as to say I would consider Garrus to be the ultimate bro character in all of video games. But when one manages to put their biases aside and really look at these two Turian combatants, it is very clear to see that this fight is going to be anything but an easy win for Garrus, but in some departments it is quite the opposite, which is why in a shocking twist, I actually believe that Vetra would come out the winner. Now, I'm sure at this moment there are several individuals that are probably going to dislike this video, and if you feel the need to do so right now, then go right ahead. I don't take it personal. But trust me, this is not the first time I've had an unexpected outcome that a portion of people do not agree with, but what I do ask for is that you at least give me a chance to explain my verdict. The fight between Garrus and Vetra is separated into 3 different departments: long range, medium range, and defense, and Vetra unfortunately has Garrus significantly outmatched in the medium range and defensive departments. At medium range, Vetra's modified Cyclone assault rifle easily outperforms Garrus' M8 Avenger, so in a shootout at that range, Garrus would lose. Also, not only is Vetra's armor better than Garrus', but her defensive shields and power armor ability allows Vetra to literally tank any shots that Garrus manages to land on her. As a tactician, Garrus is unquestionably brilliant in the grand scale, but when he is forced to fight alone, or when he's been caught off guard, his entire solo combative mindset is built upon holding actions. He places himself in a position where he cannot retreat, thereby preventing his opponents from performing any kind of flanking maneuvers, and he forces them to have to come in a direction of his choice, thereby controlling the battle. To simplify things, when fighting alone, Garrus is a camper. He's an extremely good camper, but a camper nonetheless. Vetra's superiority with her defensive capabilities allows her a much wider margin for error, and this allows her to be much more flexible. She can actually afford to make mistakes, take hits from Garrus and try again, and all she has to do is continue to close the distance, and once the fight gets to medium range, when Garrus is forced to switch to his assault rifle, the fight is all but decided. Now, in Garrus' defense, I do believe that it is possible for him to walk away the winner, but the window for him to pull this off would be extremely small, and it would require him to have to deliver so much damage to Vetra at one time that he would have to overwhelm her defenses and prevent any of her emergency backup systems from kicking in. It would be the equivalent of needing to cause so much catastrophic damage to Wolverine at one time that his healing factor isn't given the chance to kick in to save him. For Garrus to win, he would have to use all of his skills at once in sequence. He would have to somehow force Vetra into running into at least 2 proximity mines, thereby bringing down her shields. Then Garrus would have to immediately hit her with overload, which would stun her in place with the electrical charge, causing a delay in time for her emergency power arm to kick in, and then Garrus would have to follow this up with a number of armor-piercing shots directly into Vetra's exposed head. Now, the way I've explained it sounds simple, but for Garrus, this is a very complicated sequence of offensive maneuvers, and in all of his history, Garrus has never been shown to be able to pull something this complicated off when he's fighting alone, and whenever he's ever been a part of such a sequence of offensive maneuvers, he has always had the help of allies, or simply following the lead of Shepard. I see a fight between Garrus and Vetra playing out like this. Garrus is going to pick the location, and more than likely it's going to be on some narrow bridge or some wide open courtyard, when he will place himself in a location that prevents a flanking maneuver while granting him complete view of the entire area. Vetra begins to make her way to the battlefield, and more than likely Garrus will fire a warning shot at Vetra. And after the warning shot is fired, Vetra's visor will probably provide her with information on the source of the shot, and more than likely Garrus' position. Since she's only equipped with her assault rifle, she knows that she can't hit him at a long range, and she begins moving from cover to close the distance. Garrus sees this, and being the expert marksman that he is successful in landing shot after shot on Vetra, even while she's trying to run, duck, and dodge from cover to cover. But every time she makes it to a piece of protective cover, she just sits tight for a few moments and allows her shields to recharge. Garrus then realizes that he needs to change things up because Vetra is getting closer. He then throws out a few proximity mines in the hopes that Vetra will either run into them by accident or as to peek out of cover in order to shoot them in order to make herself exposed. But this fails as the mines are easily spotted, and while being hit, Vetra's shields are holding. She eventually manages to close the distance to where she can shoot back, and she does attempt to force Garrus out of his position. Realizing that he's a sitting duck if he just stays where he's at, he then switches to his M8 Avenger and begins to move towards Vetra, choosing to go head to head, believing that his damage multipliers will be enough to bring her down. Vetra begins to charge at Garrus while shooting, and he retaliates by firing directly at her, and though the M8 is effective at bringing down Vetra's shields, Vetra's power armor kicks in and it allows her to withstand his rounds. However, in this exchange, with Vetra's Cyclone having a much larger magazine than the M8, Garrus runs out of ammo, and as he attempts to use the overload ability, Vetra immediately hits him with a concussive shot, knocking Garrus back. And with ammo still left in her weapon, she activates the turbocharge ability, thereby multiplying the Cyclone's fire rate, and manages to not only bring down Garrus' shields, but manages to finish him off just before the clip goes empty. I declare Vetra the winner. This concludes my second Mass Effect Versus Series matchup, and I'm sure that there are many of you out there that disagree with this outcome, and I perfectly understand. With Garrus being not only my favorite Mass Effect teammate, but Mass Effect character, I had every reason to want to fix this matchup so that he would come out the winner. But I think that one of the challenges when trying to do these type of matchups is the ability to put one's biases aside and look at the facts and come up with the most likely scenario on how it would play out. But if you still disagree with me and believe that Garrus would walk away the winner, I would love to read how you think this fight will play out in the comments down below. If you, by some miracle, still like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to keep track of me in my future videos and other matchups that I have planned for the remainder of the year. And like always, I would like to thank all of you guys for watching, and here's a quick preview of my next matchup coming out next month. I will see you next time.